We've talked about the kings, but what about the queen? Welcome to the Press On podcast, where it is our goal to encourage you in your walk with Christ. This past week, we have had a series of lessons at the Southside Church of Christ regarding kings of the Bible, and we've looked at many of them. I'm going to put a link to those sermons if you would like to go find that playlist on YouTube. I really think you'll enjoy listening to those lessons as well. But one of the things that we didn't spend a lot of time reflecting on in a series about kings was queens. And in particular, there is one woman with the legacy of being the only queen of Judah, the ruling monarch at that time, and her name is Athaliah. 2 Chronicles 21:6 is where we start learning about this woman. She is married to Jehoram, king of Judah, but her royal lineage goes back further than that. She has a very famous mom and dad, king of Israel, Ahab, and his wife Jezebel. And you can imagine, if we were to take a poll of who are the worst people of the Bible, ranking near the top of this list is going to be Ahab and Jezebel. And when you bring these two wicked people together, what they produced was Athaliah. Her name means afflicted of the Lord. And I don't know what would possess parents to name their child that, but it does give us an idea of maybe the level of contempt they had for the Lord, not to honor and glorify His name in the name of their child. But she grows up and she marries Jehoram, king of Judah, and he reigns for a relatively short period of time compared to some of the other great kings of the Bible. And towards the end of his life, he is killed by God. God strikes him with an illness that is quite unpleasant to read about. You can look at that in 2 Chronicles 21. And following him is his son, Ahaziah. Ahaziah will step into this role as king, and he is going to appoint as a counselor for him his mother. So one of the things that we recognize about Athaliah is she is seemingly, from an early point when we're introduced to her, very close to the ones that are making decisions and have control or power over the lives of others. And that seems to be something that maybe is part of her character. She is going to counsel Ahaziah, and when she does that, she does it in the ways of Ahab so that he walks as the rest of the kings of Israel walked. He does not respect the Lord. And it is going to say in 2 Chronicles 22 verse 4 that this was to his destruction. And there's a second quality I think we will recognize about about Athaliah, that she is always close to destruction. Ahab and Jezebel die in terrible ways. Her husband Jehoram died in a terrible way. Ahaziah is going to die in a terrible way. And when he does, the first thing that Athaliah does is starts killing her grandsons. Those that were next in line to the throne, she starts killing all of her grandsons. This is the woman who becomes the queen of Judah, the only reigning female monarch in the land of Judah. And this is the one we're going to talk about for a moment today. So there's no doubt about it. When it comes to bad characters in the Bible, Athaliah is among the worst. We might say she's the actual worst. She is a terrible person. But that's not all that we know about Athaliah. I can't tell you that we can paint a picture that explains the terrible decisions she made, but I think it is important for us to step back and see more about her. One, Athaliah is royalty. She is the daughter of a king, the wife of a king, and the mother of a king. All important roles throughout her life that describe her as a royal person. And not just that, but in the sense of her counseling and also advocating greatly for the religion that she belonged to, she kind of serves as a priestess. That religion, by the way, was the worship of Baal, which a part of that worship was the murder through human sacrifice of children. Maybe this kind of gives us an idea of how it was so seemingly obvious for her to just wipe out the rest of her lineage so that she could secure the throne for herself. And I don't mean to. We kind of do this when we talk about Athaliah. We just keep getting drawn back to those negative aspects of her. But in those things that we also saw, I hope there's a few that stood out to us, such as royal and priest. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, Peter describes Christians as a royal priesthood. He tells us that we are a possession for God. And in the sense that we have that likeness, I think it's important for us to use that to compare and contrast our lives to the life of Athaliah. So hopefully as we do this, it's mainly contrasting our image to the image of Athaliah, but is it possible that we sometimes reflect more of her than we are really comfortable admitting? When Jesus spoke on the Sermon on the Mount, he spoke about murder and said it's not just the murderer. You have heard it said that murderers are liable to the court, but I say that he who is angry with his brother is liable to the court. And he's brought up this idea that murder stems from this sort of hatred in our hearts for others. And in that sense, do we allow our pursuit and our desire for control and power and worldly things to impact us in ways that starts to look more like Athaliah than we really wish? For example, will we ridicule those idiots who will not vote like we vote in the coming election? Or will we mock the fools who are afraid of this virus that we just know is not as deadly as it seems? You see, it doesn't really matter where we stand on those positions. The way we react to others, Jesus says, in our heart, details something about us that needs to get our attention. Maybe I haven't murdered all of my grandchildren, but do I murder my brother because I don't like the way that they think? I don't like the way that they do things. I don't like how they don't act like me. And that takes a little bit of my power and my control away. If that does describe us, then maybe there are some other words that Jesus uses which should echo in our hearts. Depart from me, I never knew you. Terrible words. To think that Jesus may have reason to look at us and see the character and qualities of Athaliah. But there is another character in that story, a character that I want to just very quickly bring to your attention, and that is the character Jehoshabeath. Jehoshabeath is only mentioned here in this article, but she is the complete antithesis of Athaliah, starting with their names. Remember, Athaliah's name means the afflicted of the Lord, but Jehoshabeath's name means Yahweh is an oath. In her name is reflected the faithfulness of our God. And while Athaliah is killing all of her grandsons, Jehoshabeath goes and she grabs one of them. It says that she steals him away. It's like she snatches him from certain death. Now there are some great similarities between these two women as well. Jehoshabeath is married to Jehoiada, who is the priest. But not only that, she's royalty. She is a princess. And so while she is similar to Athaliah, her actions are just the opposite. If we could say that Athaliah is greatly selfish in her attempts to gain whatever it is that she desires, Jehoshabeath is sacrificial. To think of the danger she put herself in as she stole Josiah, young King Josiah, as she stole him away from the death that was waiting for him. And then she procured a place where he and a nurse could live and could be hidden. And they did that for 6 years. No, Jehoshabeath, she is a picture of a selfless love that brought life to those who had no ability to do so for themselves. And in that, I think we see an image of our Christ. What I ask you to do today is choose. Which example will you follow? Not for the rest of your life, just for today. And ask yourselves this each morning. Today, am I going to wake up and choose to be afflicted by the Lord and let that show in all of my life and all of my actions? Or today, am I going to remember Yahweh as an oath and reflect the sacrificial love of Jehoshabeath in my actions? I hope that this has been beneficial for you today. And if you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. We're going to try to put more material like this out on a regular basis. I also hope that if you haven't done so already, you'll go over to our sister channel, Living as Christians, and find the sermons focused on the kings of the Old Testament there. They will be of great benefit, I assure you. And if you know somebody that could use this message in their life today, take just a moment and share this with them. It would mean so much to us. We thank you. God bless.